If you've been diving into Honkai Star Rail, you've probably noticed by now just how crucial it is to have a solid DPS character on your team. With its turn-based combat system, you're working with a team of up to 4 characters at a time, and having that one powerhouse can really make a difference. As you progress through the main story, you'll unlock tougher challenges like Memory of Chaos, Simulated Universe, and Swarm Disaster. These modes are tough, and the right DPS character can help you push through them and get all those sweet rewards. Now, with over 30 characters in the game, there's no shortage of options when it comes to building your team. But some DPS characters stand out above the rest. They bring not just raw damage, but also unique abilities that can turn the tide in battle. Whether you're looking for someone to dish out huge single-target damage, or a character who can clear waves of enemies in a flash, knowing which DPS characters to prioritize is key to mastering the hardest content in the game. So, let's dive into some of the best DPS picks in Honkai Star Rail that you should definitely consider for your team. I'm quickly moving on to the video. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. Let's talk about one of the community's absolute favorites in Honkai, Star Rail Kafka. Oh, you know who I'm talking about. She's the cool, mysterious 5-star Nihility character you get to try out right at the start of the game. And let's be honest, that intro, iconic. But what makes Kafka a standout isn't just her vibes, it's the way she revolutionizes the damage over time DOT playstyle. Here's the deal, Kafka's skill and ultimate are game changers. Why? Because she can instantly trigger every single DOT instance on an enemy. Yeah, you heard me, got a burn, shock, bleed, or whatever else stacked up on a target? Kafka says, let me handle that for you, and boom, it all detonates at once. It's like fireworks, but instead of being pretty, it's lethal. This makes her one of the best DPS characters in the game if you know how to build around her. And that's the trick, right? Kafka isn't a one-woman army. To truly unleash her potential, you need to pair her with a couple of DOT specialists. Bonus points if they've got solid break effect stats, because weakness break adds even more DOT, and guess what? Kafka can trigger those too. It's a beautiful cycle of destruction that just keeps giving. So, if you're aiming to dominate, build your team around Kafka's strengths and watch your enemies melt. Literally. Let's talk about one of the most exciting DPS characters in Honkai, Star Rail, Blade, the Stellaron hunter with a flair for the dramatic. Blade isn't just a wind destruction character, he's a walking paradox. The guy actively sacrifices his own HP to deal insane damage, making him a risky yet rewarding choice for anyone who loves high-stakes gameplay. His enhanced basic attacks, ultimate, and follow-up attacks hit like a freight train. But there's a catch. You've got to keep him alive long enough to deliver that damage. Now, Blade's gameplay is all about balance. Every time he gets attacked or drains his own HP, he builds up stacks for his talent. Once he reaches 5 stacks, he unleashes a devastating follow-up attack that targets every enemy on the field. Bonus points? This attack also heals him, giving him a little breathing room to keep going. Pairing him with characters like Lynx or March 7th is a no-brainer. They can taunt enemies into targeting him, ensuring he builds those stacks quickly and stays in the fight. The best part about Blade? He's not just a damage dealer, he's a spectacle. Watching him turn his own pain into power is oddly satisfying, and when you see him wipe out an entire field of enemies with a single move, you'll understand why he's one of the best DPS characters in the game. So, if you're looking for a character that rewards bold, aggressive playstyles, Blade might just be your guy. Keep him alive and he'll make sure your enemies regret crossing paths with him. Let's talk about Yunli, one of the latest additions to Honkai Star Rail and a character who's causing quite a stir among players. Released in the version 2.4 update, she hails from the Xianzhou Luofu, a region we've only recently started to explore. And let me tell you, she didn't just show up to fill space. Yunli came in with a kit that feels like a fresh spin on Clara's playstyle, sharing the same combat type and path. But is she a game changer, or is her playstyle a bit too high risk for most players? To get the most out of Yunli, you need to make enemies focus their attacks on her, which can be both brilliant and frustrating. On a good day, when the stars align and enemies can't stop targeting her, she dishes out absolutely jaw-dropping damage, even without taking a turn. It's like she's taunting them into self-destruction. But here's the catch. Without the right supports to encourage that focus, Yunli can end up feeling underwhelming. She's not a plug-and-play kind of character, so if you're thinking about adding her to your team, be ready to invest in building around her. That said, Yunli is a blast to use when everything clicks. She thrives in chaotic fights where she can counter and punish relentlessly. But don't forget, she's not invincible. If you're planning to use her in high difficulty content, you'll need a solid strategy and some tanky allies to back her up. So, is Yunli worth pulling for? If you love characters that live on the edge and reward clever setups, she's absolutely worth it. Just don't let her run into Yanking. He might just steal the show. Let's talk about one of the most exciting DPS characters Honkai Star Rail has to offer, Black Swan. If you've been around the community, you've probably seen the hype surrounding her since she was first teased by Hoyoverse in that unforgettable trailer. Well, she's here now, and oh boy, does she deliver. Released in version 2.0 alongside Penacony, Black Swan follows the Nihility path with a wind combat type. And she's not just another fancy addition to the roster, she's a game changer. What makes Black Swan so special? It's all about her Arcana stacks. These bad boys get applied to enemies through her abilities, and here's the kicker. They deal massive damage when the enemy takes their turn. That's right, she punishes enemies just for existing on the battlefield. Combine that with her insane damage numbers and built-in DMG and Def Ignore, and you've got a powerhouse that doesn't care about your defense or your feelings. Pair her with the right relics and light cones, and her potential goes through the roof. Now let's get real. Black Swan isn't just about the numbers. She's about control. She makes enemies regret every move they make, all while racking up damage that rivals the best in the game. Honestly, she's cementing her spot in the top 3 DPS characters in Honkai Star Rail right now. So, if you're looking to up your game and take your team to the next level, Black Swan is a must-pull. Alright, let's talk about Dan Heng, Imbibitor Lunae, a character so ridiculously powerful, it's like the developers just decided, you know what, let's break the game. Seriously, if you're not using him, you're missing out on some absolute carnage in Honkai Star Rail. This guy doesn't care if your enemies are weak to imaginary damage or not. He just smashes through everything in his path like a runaway freight train. Here's the deal. Imbibitor Lunae's skill is a game changer. You can use it up to 3 times to supercharge his basic attack, and when you do, it's lights out for the enemy. Whether it's single target bosses or clusters of annoying mobs, his damage output is off the charts. And let's not forget his ultimate and technique. These give you special skill points, yes, special ones, that don't even touch your regular pool of skill points. Translation, you can spam powerful attacks while your team keeps functioning like a well-oiled machine. To put it simply, Dan Heng, Imbibitor Lunae is the DPS you need on your team. He's versatile, hits like a truck, and makes combat feel more like a fireworks show. If you've been on the fence about building him, stop waiting. He's not just a good choice. He's the choice for dominating in every scenario. Trust me, you'll wonder how you ever played without him. Alright, let's talk about one of the absolute game changers in Honkai Star Rail, Jingliu. Just when we thought Hoyoverse couldn't top Imbibitor Lunae, they dropped this 5-star ice destruction powerhouse from the Xianzhou Luofu. And let me tell you, she's not just strong, she's broken in the best way possible. If you're looking for a character who makes big numbers look effortless, Jingliu is your go-to. Her gameplay essentially plays itself, and it's a spectacle every single time. Here's the deal. Jingliu's entire kit revolves around something called Syzygy. It's as fancy as it sounds. Every time she uses her skill, she gains a stack of this buff, and once she hits 2 stacks, she enters a supercharged state. In this mode, everything cranks up to 11. The stack limit increases, her skill becomes the star of the show, and here's the kicker. It doesn't even use a skill point. Instead, she siphons a bit of HP from her allies. Don't worry, it's worth it, and unleashes devastating attacks on 3 enemies at once. It's like watching a fireworks display, except the fireworks are your enemies exploding into pixels. What really sets her apart is her efficiency. Most DPS characters are skill point guzzlers, leaving you scrambling to manage resources mid-fight. Jingliu, she's got her own rules. That low skill point dependency combined with her absurd damage output makes her an easy pick for one of the best DPS characters in the game. Whether you're freezing enemies into submission or just flexing on your friends with her numbers, Jingliu is the definition of overpowered, and honestly, we're here for it. Alright, let's talk about Rappa, one of the coolest characters in Honkai Star Rail. If you've ever wanted a character who not only dishes out massive damage but looks absolutely stunning while doing it, Rappa is your go-to. Seriously, her animations are so mesmerizing that you might catch yourself watching her ultimate on repeat instead of focusing on the fight. But don't let her style fool you, this girl brings the substance too. Rappa's kit is all about breaking enemies and capitalizing on their weaknesses. Her buffed attacks can shred through multiple enemies' toughness bars like it's nothing, and once that weakness break lands, it's game over. Enemies not only take extra damage from her super break, but she also synergizes perfectly with Harmony Trailblazer's super break buffs. It's like a 1-2 punch that leaves your foes regretting their life choices. What really makes Rappa shine is her ability to dominate battles against enemies with imaginary weakness. As long as they're not hiding that weakness, she can clear waves like nobody's business. Bosses? No problem. Mobs? Easy. She's versatile, efficient, and an absolute must-have for any team looking to tear through the toughest challenges. So if you're building a roster and Rappa's available, do yourself a favor, grab her and watch the magic happen. Fake Xiao, the elegant hunt path specialist, is a force to be reckoned with in Honkai Star Rail, especially if you're facing down a single target boss. She's one of the top 3 DPS characters right now, but let me warn you, this ranking isn't set in stone. The meta shifts faster than a warp train when new enemies or mechanics come into play. Still, Fake Xiao absolutely shines against bosses who prefer to fight solo and don't bother summoning their minions. In those scenarios, she's practically unstoppable. What makes Fake Xiao so special? It's all about her ultimate. This isn't your regular charge it up with energy and go sort of move. Instead, Fake Xiao's ultimate charges every time her allies attack. That's right, her power is fueled by teamwork. This mechanic means you'll want to surround her with follow-up attack-heavy allies. Build a team that's constantly dishing out extra hits, and you'll have Fake Xiao firing off her devastating ultimate almost on repeat. It's the kind of synergy that feels insanely satisfying once it clicks. But here's the catch. Fake Xiao isn't the type to carry your team solo. Without the right setup, her ultimate might sit dormant while you're wishing for big numbers on the screen. So when you bring Fake Xiao into battle, make sure you've got a well-thought-out strategy. Pair her with characters who can keep the hits coming, and watch as she effortlessly slices through even the toughest of foes. In the right scenario, she's a DPS dream come true. Let's talk about Firefly, one of the coolest Stellaron hunters in Honkai Star Rail. Being the 4th to join the roster, Firefly had some serious expectations to live up to, and boy did she deliver. She's like that friend who shows up to the party and instantly becomes the life of it. Her ability to dish out heavy damage to an enemy's toughness bar is phenomenal. And once you break their weakness, boom! Extra break damage comes into play. Plus, she can slap a fire weakness on enemies, making her a versatile pick for almost any battle scenario. But hey, no one's perfect, right? Firefly does have a couple of drawbacks that keep her from the top spot on the best DPS tier list. The biggest one? Enemies who can hide their weakness. Yep, they're her kryptonite. Without that weakness to exploit, she's not as impactful. And let's not forget, she works best when paired with the Harmony Trailblazer. This duo is like peanut butter and jelly. Together, they're unstoppable. But if you don't have Harmony Trailblazer in your lineup, you might feel like you're not getting the full Firefly experience. Still, if you can build a team around her strengths, Firefly is an absolute game changer. She's all about timing and synergy. Master her mechanics, and you'll find yourself breaking toughness bars and shredding enemies left and right. So, is she the best DPS out there? Not quite, but when she's on her A-game with the right support, she's definitely one of the flashiest and most fun to use. Acheron is an absolute beast when it comes to DPS in Honkai Star Rail. As the first 5-star Nihility unit built around crit ratio, she can completely dominate battles with the right setup. The numbers she can put out are staggering even in her trial, which only lets you access half of her true potential. When everything aligns, you'll see her tearing through enemies, making it look almost effortless. The best part? She's not limited to specific enemy weaknesses. While her skills and abilities shine brightest against lightning-weak targets, she can still deal massive damage across the board. It's like having a secret weapon you can always rely on. Now, I won't lie to you. There are moments where Firefly might edge out Acheron in terms of pure performance. But here's the kicker. Acheron's versatility makes her a far better pick overall. She's not restricted by specific enemy types, and with the right support, you can have her ultimate up almost every cycle. That's a lot of opportunities to crush enemy HP and toughness no matter what you're facing. It's one of those set it and forget it kind of characters that you can just keep using, and she'll keep delivering results. In the grand scheme of things, Acheron is the definition of reliable damage. Her crit-based setup means you're going to see huge numbers, and those ultimates can just melt through tough bosses. Whether you're grinding through regular stages or tackling high-difficulty content, she holds her own. You might find other characters performing well in certain scenarios, but Acheron's consistency and power make her one of the top-tier DPS units you'll want in your roster. Keep your eyes on her if you're looking to dominate the battlefield in Honkai Star Rail. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.